Okay, so for today we're going to learn about the last exponent rule, and that is power rule. So as you can see here, for any real number with an exponent raised to another exponent, we multiply their exponents together. So as you can see here, we multiply m times n. So for our first example, we have 2 to the second parentheses to the third power. So what we need to do is we need to multiply 2 times 3. So we will have 2 to the 2 times 3. 2 times 3 equals 6. So we're left with 2 to the 6th. 2 to the 6th equals 64. So our final answer is 64. Remember, be sure to simplify completely. 2 to the 6th is not simplified completely. So here we have 3 to the negative 2 all to the third power. So once again, we need to multiply our exponents. So we have 3 to the negative 2 times 3. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Remember, we do not like negative exponents, so we need to get rid of this negative exponent. To get rid of this negative exponent, we just need to flip it. So if it's in the top, you bring it to the bottom. If it's in the bottom, you take it to the top. So in this case here, the negative exponent is in the top, so we just need to take it to the bottom, which gives us 1 over 3 to the 6th. 3 to the 6th equals 729, so our final answer is 1 over 729. Once again, we need to multiply our exponents. So 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Once again, we don't like negative exponents, so it's in the top, so we need to put it in the bottom, put it in the denominator, so we get 1 over x to the 8th. Now here we have two negatives getting multiplied by each other. So we have negative 2 times 2. So we are multiplying these two exponents together. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. So we just get a to the 4th. Now, raising a product to a power. So as you'll see here, inside our parentheses, we have a being multiplied by b. So when we have two things being multiplied by each other, that means we have a product. So our n gets distributed to our a, and it gets distributed to our b, as you can see right here. And it stays in the exponent. So here we have two terms, all right? We have 2 and we have x squared. These are two separate terms. So our 3 gets distributed to our 2, and our 3 also gets distributed to our x squared. So we have 2 to the 1 times 3, because 2 right here is to the 1 power. 2 to the first is 2. So 2 times 3, and x to the 2 times 3. So we end up with 2 to the third, x to the 6th. 2 to the third equals 8. So we get 8x to the 6th. Now down here we have four terms. We have 3, x, y, and z. So the 3 needs to be distributed into each of these terms. Remember, this here becomes 3 to the third, not 3 times 3. So we have 3 to the third, x to the exponent here for x is 1. So we have 1 times 3, which is 3. Remember, multiply exponents in the power rule. So we have negative 4 times 3, which is negative 12. And z to the 12 times 3, which is 36. Now, we're not done. We need to simplify this yet. 3 to the third is not simplified. So 3 to the third equals 27. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. So we have 27 x to the third. Now our y has a negative exponent, so we want to send that to the bottom. Remember, it's in the numerator, so we just send it to the denominator. And our z is positive, so that will stay at the top. Remember, if your exponents are positive, they stay where they are. If you have positive exponents, you do not need to change them at all. So once again here, we need to distribute our 3 through everything. So we get 4 to the third, a to the 2 times 3, which is 6. And we get b to the 4 times 3, which is 12. Now, we need to simplify this. So 4 to the third is 64. And we have no negative exponents, so we just need to copy the variables back down with their exponent. And that is our answer. So now we have a negative exponent. So I'm just going to multiply this negative exponent through, and then I'll worry about if I am left with any negative exponents. So I have 5 to the negative 2, a to the negative 4 times negative 2. So 2 negatives make a positive, which gives us positive 8. B to the 2 times negative 2, which is negative 4. And C to the 6 times negative 2, which is negative 12. Now, I see negative exponents, which means we are not done here. We need to get rid of these negative exponents. To do this, remember, we just flip them, or if they're in the numerator, we send them to the denominator. So here, these are all in the numerator. So we just need to send them to the denominator. So 5 to the negative 2 just becomes 1 over 25. Since 1's on the top, I'm not going to write it because we don't really need it. 8 here, 8's positive, so 8 stays where it is. So we have a to the 8th. Now our b and our c exponents are negative, so I'm just going to move those to the bottom. And that's our final answer. Now, we have raising a quotient to a power. As you can see in the parentheses, we have a quotient. So when we have a quotient in our parentheses, we just distribute the exponent of n through, so it becomes a to the n over b to the n. So here, we just need to distribute this 2 through. Make sure you keep it in the exponent, so it becomes 3 squared over 5 squared. That equals 9 over 25, which cannot be simplified anymore. So that is our final answer. Remember, we want to keep our answers in simplest forms, which means they are simplified until they cannot be simplified anymore. Now here, we have a negative exponent after the parentheses. So when we have a negative exponent after the parentheses, I'm just going to go ahead and flip these. So this is going to become 3 over 2, all to the third power. So 3 to the third all over 2 to the third, which is 81 over 27. That cannot be simplified anymore. And 2 to the third is not 27. I'm sorry about that. 2 to the third is 8. So I will change that. And 3 to the third is also not 81. So 3 to the third is 27, and 2 to the third is 8. Sorry about that. That cannot be simplified anymore. So that is our final answer. All right, 2 more examples here. Once again, we have a negative exponent here. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip this fraction inside the parentheses. So I get 4x to the 5th all over 2x squared. And this is still raised to the 3rd power. So now we got to distribute this through. So 4 to the 3rd, which is 64. X to the 5 times 3, which is 15. All over 2 to the 3rd, which is 8. And x to the 2 times 3, which is 6. Okay, now this is not in simplest terms. Remember, we cannot have an x on the top or in the bottom. It can only be on one or the other. And 64 over 8 does simplify. So 64 over 8 simplifies to 8 because 64 divided by 8 is 8. And this right here is going to be the quotient rule. So in the quotient rule, we subtract our exponents. So we have 15 minus 6, which is 9. Now our final example here, we're going to distribute this 4 through. So 3 to the 4th, which is 81. And a has an exponent of 1. So 1 times 4 is 4. And we have b to the negative 5 times 4, which is negative 20. And the 4 needs to be distributed here on the bottom. So 2 to the 4th is 16. A to the 3 times 4 is 12. And b to the 2 times 4 is 8. So now we need to do the quotient rule. And the quotient rule is we subtract our exponents. Subtract our exponents for the quotient rule. And 81 over 16 does not simplify, so we'll leave that the way it is. So 4 minus 12 is negative 8. So since it's negative, it will come down here to the bottom. So we'll have a to the 8th. And negative 20 minus 8 is negative 28. So once again, it comes down to the bottom. So there you have it. Here's our answer. And now you guys know all of the exponent rules and will hopefully, remember them forever.